My name is Arthur. For 30 years I lived a lie. I gave my life, my youth, and my soul to a woman I believed was dying. I carried her sickness on my back until my own spine cracked from the weight. I fed her, washed her, and sold my father's watch to pay for her medicine. I slept in hospital chairs, counting the beeps of machines like they were lullabies. I thought my devotion was unbreakable. But one Tuesday evening, a knock on my door shattered my entire world. My neighbor, a good man named Ben, stood there looking like he'd seen a ghost. He didn't want to come inside. He just held out his phone, his hand shaking, and said, "Arthur, you need to see this." What he showed me was a video. It was only 30 seconds long. In those 30 seconds, I watched 30 years of my life burn to ash. If you think you know what betrayal feels like, wait until you hear what I saw. But before I continue, I need to know, where are you watching from? Leave a comment below and hit that subscribe button. Your support helps expose the truth. The video wasn't grainy or dark. It was crystal clear. There she was, my wife, Clara, the woman who just that morning had been too weak to lift a spoon to her own mouth, the woman I had to carry to the bathroom. But in this video, she was laughing. She was standing in the park down the street, the same park she told me she was too frail to ever visit. She was wearing a bright yellow sundress, not the faded robe she wore at home. Her skin was glowing with health, not pale with sickness. And she was not alone. A man younger than me had his arm wrapped around her waist. She leaned into him, her head thrown back in a laugh I hadn't heard in 20 years. It was a sound of pure, unburdened joy. Then she turned to him, cupped his face in her hands, and kissed him. It wasn't a peck. It was a deep, passionate kiss, full of a life I thought her illness had stolen. The date stamp in the corner of the video glowed. Yesterday. Yesterday, while I was on my knees picking up a pill she'd accidentally dropped, she was in another man's arms. While I was boiling broth for her sensitive stomach, she was probably sharing a meal with him. While I was praying for a miracle to save her, her miracle was already here, a life of deception, paid for by my sacrifice. I stood there on my porch, frozen. The phone felt like a block of ice in my hand. Ben took it back, his eyes full of pity. "I'm so sorry, Arthur," he whispered, before turning and walking away, leaving me alone with the echoing sound of my wife's laughter. From inside the house, I heard her call my name. "Arthur, darling, could you bring me my tea? The pain is so bad tonight." Her voice was a perfect imitation of weakness, a masterful performance I had fallen for every single day for 3 decades. But the spell was broken. The scales fell from my eyes. Every suppressed doubt came rushing back, not as whispers but as screams. The pills I found hidden under her mattress. The way she was always too tired for company, but perked up if certain friends called. The miraculous, good days that always seemed to coincide with my longest work shifts. It was all a lie, a carefully constructed 30-year-long lie. I didn't answer her, I didn't bring her tea. I walked back into the house, my body moving on autopilot. I went straight to the kitchen. Lined up on the counter were the soldiers of my servitude, dozens of medicine bottles. I picked one up. It was full of placebos, I was sure of it now. Another was for a condition I now doubted she ever had. For 30 years, this kitchen wasn't my home. It was my command post in a war against a phantom enemy. The hospital bills stuffed in the drawer weren't records of treatment. They were receipts for my own stupidity. The faded photo of us on our wedding day was not a cherished memory. It was the starting pistol for a con that would last half my life. I had given up everything for her, my career. I turned down a vice presidency because it required travel, my friends. I stopped returning their calls because I was always too busy caring for Clara, my hobbies. I sold my fishing boat to pay for a specialist. My health. My own body was breaking down from the strain of carrying hers. And for what? So she could play the devoted, fragile wife by day and live a vibrant, secret life by night. So she could fund her double life with my pension, my savings, my sweat. The coldness started in my fingertips and spread through my chest. It wasn't rage. Rage is hot and it demands action. This was different. This was a profound, soul-deep freeze. It was the cold shock of truth so absolute it stops your heart for a moment. I heard her call again, a little more impatient this time. "Arthur, the tea." I looked toward the bedroom door. For 30 years, that voice was my command. It dictated my schedule, my mood, my entire existence. But not anymore. The man who jumped at her every whim died on that porch, watching a 30-second video. A new man was standing in this kitchen, a man made of ice, and he had a plan. I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't cry, I wouldn't even confront her, not yet. My revenge would be as cold and silent as the truth I had just learned. She thought she had the ultimate control. She thought my love and pity were chains that bound me to her. She was about to learn that those chains were made of paper, and I had just lit a match. I stood in that kitchen for a long time just listening to the silence of my own frozen heart, listening to her soft, fake moans from the bedroom. Each one was a tiny hammer driving the ice deeper. I wasn't Arthur, the devoted husband, anymore. I was a strategist, a surgeon, and it was time to operate. My first move wasn't emotional. It was financial. It was digital. I opened my laptop right there at the kitchen table, the glow of the screen illuminating the lines of exhaustion on my face, lines she had carved with her lies. I logged into our joint bank account. For 30 years, my paycheck had been deposited here, the lifeblood of her deception. With a few cold, precise clicks, I rerouted my direct deposit to a new, private account I set up in under 5 minutes. The next paycheck, and every one after, would vanish before she could even pretend to be too sick to check the balance. Next, I logged into the online portal for every single credit card, the ones I paid for in my name that she used for her medical supplies and God knows what else. I reported them all lost. I had new ones expedited to a PO box I rented online. The old cards, the ones in her wallet, were now worthless pieces of plastic. She thought her performance was flawless. She had no idea I was about to cancel the entire production. What I did next was so cold, so calculated, it will shock you. But to understand the full picture, I need you with me. Please subscribe right now. You won't want to miss the ending. Then came the utilities, the electricity, the water, the internet, all in my name. I logged into each account and changed the primary contact email and phone number to my new, secure ones. She would receive no warnings, no late notices. The first she'd know of it was when the lights didn't turn on. I worked through the night, a ghost in my own home, dismantling the world I had built for her. By sunrise, her financial oxygen had been cut off. She just didn't know it yet. The next morning, I played my part. I brought her tea. I kept my face a mask of quiet concern. She looked at me, her eyes searching for any sign of suspicion. She found none, because there was none. Suspicion had been replaced by certainty, and certainty doesn't need to show itself. "Did you sleep, darling?" she asked, her voice a fragile whisper. "Not much," I said, and it was the truth. I was thinking. "About what?" "About the past," I said, and looked her directly in the eyes. "All those years." A flicker of unease crossed her face, so fast I would have missed it before. Now I saw it clearly, the guilt, the fear. She quickly looked away, feigning a cough. I let her. The performance was almost over. 2 days later, the first domino fell. I was in the living room when I heard her frustrated gasp from the bedroom. She was trying to order something online. "Arthur," she called out, "my card was declined. There must be a mistake." "I'll look into it," I called back, my voice calm. I didn't move. An hour later, she tried to call the bank. I heard her on the phone, her weak voice becoming sharp and demanding. "What do you mean my access is limited? I'm a joint account holder. This is my money." It wasn't her money. It never was. The panic began to set in. I could feel it radiating from the bedroom. The carefully constructed dam of her lies was springing leaks. She tried another card. Declined. She tried to log into our bank account, but the password, which I had changed, no longer worked. By the evening, she was packing, her illness forgotten in the face of a very real crisis. "Arthur, this is serious. All our cards are dead. We need to go to the bank first thing in the morning." "We don't need to do anything," I said, finally looking up from my book. She stopped dead. "What does that mean?" I didn't answer. I simply reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and pulled up the video. I turned the screen toward her. The laughter filled the room. Her face went white. All the color, all the fake vitality, drained away in an instant. She stared at the screen, at her own healthy, laughing image, at the man whose name she probably whispered when I wasn't home. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The performance was over. The audience had walked out. "That was taken the day you said the pain was so bad you couldn't get out of bed," I said, my voice flat, devoid of all emotion. "The day I fed you soup. The day I called out of work to be with you." She started to cry. Real tears this time. Not the delicate, pitiable ones, but ugly, gasping sobs of a caught criminal. "Arthur, I can explain. It's not what you think. I was confused. I was lonely." I let her beg. I let her weave a new web of lies, more frantic and transparent than the last. I listened to it all, saying nothing. My silence was a heavier judgment than any shouting could ever be. When she finally ran out of excuses, collapsing onto the couch in a heap of tears, I stood up. 30 years, I said, the two words hanging in the air like a verdict. "You stole 30 years from me. You don't get to steal another day." I walked to the closet and took out my old coat. I put it on. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't take a single photograph. I wanted nothing from this tomb of lies. "Where are you going?" she whispered, her voice raw with terror. "Away," I said. "The mortgage is paid. The house is yours. Consider it payment for the performance of a lifetime, but everything else, the money, the security, the man who loved you, that's gone." I walked to the front door. She scrambled after me, clutching at my arm. "You can't leave me. I'm sick. I need you." I turned and looked at her one last time. I looked at the woman I had wasted my life on. "You're not sick, Clara," I said, my voice as cold as the truth. "You're just a liar, and I'm done being your audience." I opened the door and stepped out into the clean, cold night. I didn't look back. I heard her screaming my name, but the sound was faint, already part of a past life. I got into my car and drove. I didn't know where I was going, and for the first time in 30 years, that felt like freedom. I had nothing but the clothes on my back and a bank account she couldn't touch. She thought her betrayal was in the kiss, but her real betrayal was every single day she let me believe a lie. She didn't just break my heart. She made a fool of it for 3 decades. My revenge wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. It was administrative. I didn't destroy her life. I simply stopped funding it. I took my life back, one password, one bank transfer, one silent decision at a time. The last I heard, she had to sell the house. The money ran out fast when the taps were turned off. The man in the video, he didn't stick around to play nurse. I live simply now, in a small apartment where the only pills are the vitamins I take for myself. The only sounds are the ones I choose to hear. The silence is no longer heavy. It is mine. She thought love was a weakness she could exploit. She learned too late that a man's love is his to give. And when he takes it back, there is no force on earth more cold or more final. If you believe that no one should have their kindness used as a weapon against them, share this story. Let it be a warning, and subscribe for more true stories of justice served.